Hi, we're here at the Art Wars exhibition, Rogue One edition, at the Le Dame Gallery in London. We're going to talk with a few of the artists and the curator himself. You worked in gold wire embroidery for 12 years. How did you associate that with your Star Wars helmet?
Well, basically, the most of the artwork that I make now is a blend between what I was doing for those 12 years and an interest in portraiture and an interest in nature as well. So when we got the opportunity to do the Art Wars project, Ben gave me the helmet and said, can you come up with something original, something that represents you? So I thought it'd be good to blend that bit of history. So both my history as a draftsman and embroidery designer, and also the history of some of the embroidery itself. Parts of this is like a traditional British oak leaf and fern design that would be worn on military tunics. So I thought it's pretty apt to have that on a stormtrooper. Yeah. I suppose I grew up at the right time, so Star Wars for me, it sort of captured my imagination as a young child. When the first films came out, first kind of cinema experiences were going to see this, this larger than life story, this good and evil kind of thing. And as a kid, it just, it kind of just blew your mind really. And then growing up with it and seeing the evolution of the series over the years, and the more recent sort of evolution of Star Wars with its sort of nostalgic, sort of nods to the past as well. It's something, I don't know, very close to heart and connects to a lot of people, I think. So the process for creating this piece, I basically sketched freehand onto the helmet. Um, so I wanted to just basically draw straight away, no planning whatsoever. I started somewhere up here with the flow of leaves here, and then just sort of moved around. I had a little think about how I was going to address the eye shape and where the sort of like the floral pattern emerged from. And then I poured water over the whole helmet, and then I flicked a mixture of pigment, tea, and inks over the top of it, and then it all dripped down. So the whole thing was white with this watercolor wash. And then I just painted all the negative spaces in black afterwards. So for me, the finishing point was when all that black was covered. That was kind of it. I didn't want to add too much detail to it. I didn't really want to return it back to a piece of embroidery too much. I wanted to have a bit of freshness and a bit of life to the drawing as well.
Do you have a favorite out of all the other Stormtrooper helmets?
Oh, yeah, I do have another favourite. This helmet here is by artist Dan Baldwin, who I've known for a long time as well. So he's a good friend and sort of colleague of mine. Yeah, absolutely beautiful piece and gilded in the inside as well. This mask already represents the human face, then I thought it would be nice just to concentrate on the nature. So it's kind of looking at the flow of line across the surface of the face, and I would do a similar thing if I was creating a portrait. So it just made more sense to do this. Also, it's freer for me to work on if it doesn't have a portrait in there. If I'm painting a portrait onto this surface as well, it may have the tendency to be a bit distorted and look a bit odd. But I thought about it, but I thought this was going to be the most successful way to do it.
How do you feel the London art scene is developing or evolving?
I think there's a huge influence of street art on the general art scene in London still. I see it's quite nice to see the fusion of work coming from different directions, not just sort of gallery work, fusing together and sort of crossing boundaries, and sort of just a really really nice mix.
So, what else are you going to be working on?
I've got an exhibition later this evening at West Bank Gallery with a portrait of Hunter S. Thompson for an exhibition called Gonzo, which is really cool. 50 artists involved. That should be a really good gig too. And I'm basically just continuing my studio work, bringing new materials in, bringing more paint in, and developing a more painterly style.
Thank you for talking to us. Um, you have deviated from your usual dog artwork to do this stormtrooper helmet for charity. How did you approach it to reach this result?
Um, when I started doing my artworks, I worked a lot with comic strips and all first editions. This one is not the first edition, but it is from 1972, and it's a Swedish comic with Tarzan. And I managed to get hold of the one which is called Jungle Law, which I thought, if you look up on Wikipedia, I thought was quite appropriate in terms of how the world is looking at the minute in America and a little bit everywhere. So I build in a story within the Tarzan story. So, for instance, here, he jumps up in the air and come across here and jumps down, deep down in the water. And in Swedish, you can read here, hoppa, which means jump. And that's how I see my work as well. Just go into the deep end and jump in and yeah. So each piece, I mean, each little strip is carefully selected, um, not only color-wise, but with a text in it. So on this side, for instance, is his brunette girlfriend, Tarzan's, and on the other side is his blonde girlfriend. And then obviously himself in the middle, and how he's tackling the life in the jungle. And here in the front,
Yeah, for the eyes.
yeah, well, the eyes are him and his animals, but this one is where he reads a letter they have taken his son. And as this charity is about missing people, I thought that was appropriate, and that's how I work. I try to build in things.
Are you working on any other exhibitions at the moment?
Yes, I am currently having an exhibition in Palma and one in Algarve, Portugal. And I'm just texting now because South Africa is awake now, so I'm just texting a gallery in South Africa in Johannesburg about an exhibition next year.
Hi, Ben Moore. Thank you for talking to us. Of course, our pleasure. So, you have organized this whole exhibition of stormtrooper helmets for charity, is it?
It's for the Missing Tom Fund and for the missing people as well. This piece here by Anish Kapoor is half to the Missing People charity and half to the Missing Tom Fund.
So, what inspired you to have this idea?
Well, it started quite a while back, but really the real start of it was in 2013 when about 20 artists, I gave 20 different artists a Stormtrooper helmet with the instructions to put their trademark style onto it. And that was opened at the Saatchi Gallery. And it was 10 years, marked 10 years since my brother had disappeared. And all the artists involved very kindly did it in aid of the missing Tom.
Are you a big fan of Star Wars? Does this have anything to do with it?
When I was a kid growing up, I used to love the films and the toys, and I remember looking at a stormtrooper thinking, I don't know, maybe having some sort of like prophecy of the future. But yeah, I found it. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Do you know all these artists personally?
Yeah, pretty much. They're all artists. The artists I approach are always artists who I think are going to like do something interesting with the object, and artists who have a very distinct like trademark style. For example, this is very typical of what Dan normally does. What's really cool about this piece, other than the very interesting markings that he's given it, is that on the inside it's embellished in gold leaf. So he's thought, carefully about the inside of the piece as well, which I like. Yeah, as I say, each artist in the room, I mean, it's very typical of what Anish Kapoor does in his own work. This is very typical of what Agnetha normally does, what Carne does. Yeah, they're all very iconic, not only of the stormtrooper object, but also of the style of the artist. Yeah.
Yeah. You've taken the artists out of their usual medium. Are you an artist yourself, and what would you have done?
Yeah, as I am actually a struggling artist myself. I don't ever really get much time to make my own work. But I've got a piece here that I have done, which is over here. And this is an artist. No, this is a stormtrooper helmet, but with the finish of human skin. So it's called Baldowski. And I actually did this piece as well. This is called the Golden Dark Side. With my work, I basically came up with the idea to do this, and then I find the people who can do it the best to carry out the idea. And I actually consider that to be part of the art. The part of the art is to actually source the expert who can do it the best. It's almost like selecting, like the best paintbrush to paint a picture with. And the same with this. I didn't gold leaf it myself. I got the frame, I came up with the concept, but I got someone who's amazing at gold leaf to gold leaf it.